Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Tariq, lecturer in economics. Dear student, in this semester we will study the subject macroeconomics, principles of macroeconomics. Before to start properly the course, let me introduce some concern study materials. The book's recommendation is as given. The first one, Principles of Economics, wrote by Carl E. Ch. This is very good book. Cover all the basic concepts regarding the principles of macroeconomics. The second one, Principles of Macroeconomics, wrote by Taylor. I put some reference books also that will help the students in understanding. The first one, Macroeconomics, wrote by Mankiw. The second one, Macroeconomics, wrote by Emil Jingen. And the third one, Macroeconomics, wrote by Hamid Shahid. The student has to purchase the very first one, Principles of Economics, wrote by Carl E. Ch. Now we are switching toward the outlines of this course, Principles of Macroeconomics, that we will study in this semester, inshallah. Nature of macroeconomics, measurement of national income, government and fiscal policy, aggregate demand and equilibrium output level, equilibrium in goods and money market, inflation, business cycle, and the last one, chapter, open economy of the course macroeconomics. Our first chapter, that is nature of macroeconomics, and we are going to start the course Principles of Macroeconomics from the very first topic, what is macroeconomics. So as this is mentioned in the slides, macroeconomics is the study of the economy as a whole. We know that economics is the study of economic activities that we perform in our daily lives. But macroeconomics actually study the aggregate total of these economic activities. Like for example, aggregate demand. Demand is one economic activity of the people. But in a macroeconomics section, we will study total demand of the economy. For example, we are in Afghanistan, so we will consider the total demand of Afghans living in Afghanistan, demand for education, demand for health facilities, demand for infrastructure, demand for peace, security, demand for food items. The total demand of the total economy, this study is called macroeconomics. Another example, aggregate supply, aggregate total supply. So again we will concentrate on the output produced by all companies working in Afghanistan, or you can say the output of all sectors of Afghanistan. This study is called macro study, and macroeconomics is the study of aggregates. Another example of the macroeconomics, national income, not income of any individual or income of the group of people. We are analyzing total income of all Afghans living in Afghanistan, within the country or outside the country. So again I am repeating, macroeconomics is the study of aggregates, and that is why national income measurement, that is macroeconomic activity, and this is the study of macroeconomics when we are calculating, when we are estimating, when we are computing national income. Similarly, another example of the macroeconomic study, GNP, gross national product. Again, this is the total output of Afghanistan, the total income of Afghanistan, living within the country or outside from the country, their earnings, that is called GNP, gross national product of the state, and this is again macroeconomics activity. Aggregate investment means total investment magnitude in any particular time of Afghanistan economy, that is called macroeconomic study. Macroeconomic is the study of aggregate, and in here our macroeconomic variable that we are focusing on, that is aggregate investment magnitude. Aggregate employment and aggregate unemployment level. Again, this is macroeconomic activity, and we call this is macroeconomics because macroeconomics is the study of aggregate, the study of total, total employment out of the labor force and total unemployment level out of the labor force Afghanistan. Another example, general price level. This is again macroeconomic terminology or macroeconomic variable or concept. In the general price level, we will include prices of the goods and services, wage rate of the mazdoor, salaries of the employees, rent of the building, interest rate in the bank, everything. This is included in the macroeconomic study, general price level. And the final one, functioning of all markets. Economy carry four major markets: capital market, money market, labor market, goods and services market. When we consider the functioning, the activities of all markets, so this study is called study of aggregates, yani macroeconomics study. Now we are proceeding toward the objectives of macroeconomics. So the very first one objective, that is economic growth. Economic growth means increase in GDP, increase in GNP, increase in aggregate output, aggregate supply. But one condition is this, that we have to maintain this growth. We have to sustain the increase in aggregate output, increase in aggregate demand, increase in aggregate supply, increase in aggregate investment magnitude, increase in aggregate consumption, increase in aggregate saving. These are all macroeconomic variable, and its increase, that is called economic growth, but we have to sustain it. This is not a growth that in one quarter GDP of Afghanistan 100% increase and in the second quarter GDP 100% decrease. That is not economic growth. Economic growth must be gradual, stepwise, step by step. We have to take our economy from the zero, from the lower bottom to the peak, to the boom, to the top position. This is called economic growth. The second one, full employment. This is another objective of the macroeconomic study. So it's mean we have to fully utilize all the available resources of the state Afghanistan. What are the major resources? Land, labor, capital and organization. We have to utilize it fully, increase demand, increase employment level, increase per capita income, and make sure the sustained economic growth. You people know that 90% land of Afghanistan is not working, so we have to utilize it. Labor is unskilled, uneducated, untrained. We have to make them educated, make them trained, make them skillful to utilize these resources and make sure economic growth. This is another objective of the course. The third one, that is price stability. Price stability doesn't mean that prices will remain fixed. Price stability means low and stable rate of inflation, and that inflation must be less than 3% annually, 1 to 3% annually. This is acceptable inflation rate in a particular economy, and this increase, this slow 1 to 3% increase in price level annually, that is good for economic growth. So price stability doesn't mean that price will remain fixed. We have to control this inflation rate. We have to make sure less than 3% increase in price level annually. So this is called price stability. The next one, that is external balance. External balance means the difference between the earnings from exports that Afghanistan exports to the foreigners, and earning from whatever Afghanistan imports from the foreigners. This difference, the difference must be positive, surplus, that if we are exporting more, means the earnings of Afghanistan while exporting to the foreigner, that is more from the payments of Afghanistan while importing from the foreigners. So external balance means exports must be more than imports. We have to earn more and pay less. And when Afghanistan will earn more? When Afghanistan exports more and imports less. So we have to avoid deficit in balance of payment. We have to take care of surplus balance of payments, yani earning more and paying less. This is another objective, and how this is possible by increasing GDP, by decreasing internal inflation in the state, by changing taste, stopping non-essential imports. So this is possible that we decrease imports and increase exports. The next one, income equality. The government has to make sure equal distribution of wealth, means provide equal opportunity to every area of Afghanistan, that every individual who belong to Afghanistan equally enjoy the output of Afghanistan, equal opportunities of jobs to everyone, equal health opportunity, education opportunities, infrastructure. The government is responsible to provide equal opportunities in every area to every citizen of the Afghanistan. These are the major objectives of the course Macroeconomics. Now we are coming toward the macroeconomics tools and instruments. The macroeconomics carry two major powers or tools that the government use to increase or to stimulate economic growth or to decrease economic growth. One is fiscal policy and other is monetary policy. Government use two major tools to keep economic fluctuations, yani ups and downs. Fluctuations mean increase in economic activities and decrease in economic activities. Government is controlling this fluctuation using the two powers, fiscal policy and monetary policy. Fluctuations, ups and downs in economic activities mean increase in aggregate demand, increase in aggregate supply, increase in investment magnitude, increase in price level, increase in interest rate, increase in GDP, increase in GNP, aggregate consumption. These are all macroeconomic variables and these are economic activities. Its increase that is called economic growth. So government makes sure increase in demand, increase in supply, increase in all macroeconomic variables using two powers, fiscal policy and monetary policy. The first one we are discussing shortly, fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is one tool, I'm again repeating, that the government use to increase economic growth. And what is increase in economic growth? Increase in aggregate demand, aggregate supply, aggregate investment, aggregate consumption, aggregate saving, finally GDP of the state. This fiscal policy carry three instruments. One is government expenditure. We are using the symbol G for that. Other is taxes, tax revenue, and the third one, that is transfer payments. Now, how this is possible that the government encourage or stimulate or increase economic growth using these three instruments, I am discussing one by one. If the government want to increase economic growth, so the government has to use government spending, spend $1 billion on the welfare of the public, spend $1 million on the health sector, spend $1 million on the defense, spend $1 million on the education, industrial sector, transportation sector, communication sector, construction of roads, motorways, universities, colleges, hospitals, parks, industries, port, airports. So when the government spend $1 million in these areas, automatically demand of the businessman and demand of the common people will increase. Businessman will demand for labor, for capital, for raw material, and jobs opportunities in the economy will increase. Automatically earning of the people will increase. When earning of the people increase, their per capita income increase, their demand for goods and services will increase, consumption will increase, saving will also increase, and finally GDP will also increase. So economy is jumping from one lower level to the other upper level. So this is one instrument, government expenditures or government spending, G, that government use to increase or to stimulate economic growth. The second one, that is taxes. Again, this is one instrument of the fiscal policy that government used to increase economic growth or to decrease economic growth. If the government want to increase economic growth by using taxes, so the government has to reduce tax rate. When the taxes decrease, income, disposable income of the people will increase. And when the income of people increase, again their demand for labor, capital, raw material will increase, their demand for goods and services will increase, employment level will increase, per capita income will increase, consumption will increase, and GDP will jump from one lower level to the other upper level. So tax is another instrument of the tool fiscal policy that government used to increase or to encourage economic growth. The third one, that is transfer payments. Transfer payments are those payments that the government pay to the public without demanding any services from the public, yani free of services like zakat, like scholarship, like unemployment allowances, like old age pension benefits, like social security allowances. The government spend this on the public, the money goes in the hands of public, their income level increase, their demand increase, their consumption increase, employment will increase, and economy will jump from one lower level to the other upper level. So this is the first tool or power that the state, the government use to stimulate, to increase economic growth. The second one, that is monetary policy. Monetary policy is the control of money supply, and this is the responsibility of the central bank to control money supply, increase money supply or decrease money supply. And we are using MS as an instrument of this policy, and the government use this money supply instrument to encourage economic growth. Like, for example, if the government want to increase money supply, the government has to decrease interest rate. When interest rate is low, every investor, everyone will take loan from the bank and invest in the goods market. Automatically demand for labor, capital and raw material will increase, employment level will increase, per capita income of the people will increase, aggregate consumption will increase, and GDP will jump from one lower level to the upper high level. So these are the tools, powers of the government that used to increase or decrease economic growth. Now we are switching toward the importance of macroeconomics. Why we are studying macroeconomics? So the first important is this, to understand the working condition of the economy. How this is possible? Because by measuring macroeconomic variables mathematically, statistically, like calculate national income of the state, GDP, gross domestic product, GNP, net national product, NNP, DI, disposable income, PI, personal income, I for investment, E for employment level, P for general price level, R for interest rate. These are macroeconomic variables, and these variables are actually statistically measurable. If we compute, if we calculate, if we estimate these variables, we can understand the current economic conditions of the economy, that how economy is working currently, and we can make policies for the future. Like, for example, suppose I am saying that if we mathematically, statistically compute GDP or GNP, and suppose the GDP of Afghanistan that we calculate in the first quarter of 2020, this was $600 billion. And now if we calculate the GDP of Afghanistan for the second quarter, that is $800 billion. So it's mean by calculating GDP, we find out that figures are increasing. It's mean output of the state is increasing, and output increase, it's mean demand increase, jobs increase, per capita income increase, and economy is moving from one lower level to the other upper level. So this is the importance of the study of macroeconomics, that macroeconomic variables are statistically measurable. We can calculate them, and we can judge the current economic condition, as well as we can frame, we can make policies for the future. The second one, macroeconomic study provide us policies. So making policies, usually less developed countries carry many problems, like the problem of unemployment, underproduction, the problem of inflation, deflation, lack of resources, the problem of political instability, peace, security. These are all macroeconomic problems, and the macroeconomic study make policies that how the government can overcome these problems. So macroeconomics give us three powers fiscal policy, monetary policy, and direct control to overcome all these problems as we mentioned, like unemployment, inflation, deflation, underproduction, economic fluctuation, using macroeconomic concepts and policies to overcome these problems. I am giving a simple example. For example, suppose there is unemployment, lack of jobs. So when the government will use fiscal policy or monetary policy to increase government spending, to decrease tax rates, automatically demand for labor will increase. When demand for labor increase, employment level will increase, earning of the people will increase, per capita income of Afghanistan will increase, and GDP will jump from one lower level to the other upper level. So macroeconomics actually give us policies to overcome the problem as I mentioned in this slide. Macroeconomic problems. Again, we will repeat that macroeconomics determine the causes of the macroeconomic problems and then provide solution for those problems, like unemployment, economic fluctuations, ups and downs in the business cycle, inflation, deflation, political instability, underproduction. These are all macroeconomic problems. So actually macroeconomics identify the reasons and then give us the solution to avoid those problems. Like for example, the cause of unemployment, that there is a lack of aggregate demand. If there is unemployment in the state, so the reason is lack of demand. There is no demand, no aggregate demand. So the solution, how to increase demand? By using fiscal policy or monetary policy. If the government use monetary policy, increase money supply by decreasing interest rate. When interest rate is low, every investor will take loan. Everyone having money in banks will withdraw and start investment in the goods market. And when everyone is starting investment in the goods market, automatically demand for labor, for capital, for raw material will increase. And when demand for these things increase, automatically employment level will increase and unemployment will decrease. So macroeconomics identify that the reason of unemployment, that is lack of demand, and give you solution also, that increase aggregate demand. How to increase aggregate demand? Increase investment magnitude, or use fiscal policy, increase government spending, decrease tax rates, increase transfer payments, or increase money supply. So first determine the problem, that this is the reason, and then give us the solution that we can sort out this problem. We can increase employment level, we can decrease unemployment level using fiscal policy, monetary policy, or direct control. The next one, control inflation and deflation. Macroeconomics study, again I'm telling you, provide us the fiscal policy, monetary policy, or direct control to stop inflation and deflation. Look, if there is a inflation, so economics identify that the reason is aggregate demand. Demand is more than supply. Demand is more than the output. So that is why macroeconomics give you fiscal policy and monetary policy tight, contractionary fiscal policy and contractionary monetary policy to solve this problem of inflation. When the government will decrease government spending, the government will increase tax rate, the government will decrease money supply, automatically aggregate demand of the people will decrease, demand for labor, demand for capital, demand for raw material will decrease, investment magnitude will decrease, unemployment will increase, and income of the people will come down. When income of the people come down, automatically their demand will decrease and prices will come down, because I told you that the cause of inflation is huge demand, more aggregate demand. Aggregate demand is more than the aggregate output produced by the economy, and when demand is more and supply is less, it will pull the prices up. So the government use contractionary fiscal policy and contractionary monetary policy to stop this inflation. Why? To reduce aggregate demand of the public. Now we are coming toward the last one, surplus balance of payments. So balance of payments, actually earning of the economy of Afghanistan while exporting the goods and services. So if you want that the balance of payments must be positive surplus, so exports must be more than imports. When exports of Afghanistan will be more than imports of Afghanistan, it means receipts, earnings from the foreigners is more than the payments to the foreigners. And when earning will be more than the payments, your balance of payments will be in surplus. Your earning will be more than the payments to the foreigners. So according to the macroeconomics, stop non-essential imports. When you will stop non-essential imports, automatically payments will reduce to the foreigners. Increase exports by full employment. When we utilize the resources of the state fully, land, labor, capital and organization, automatically output of the state will increase. When output increase, exports will increase and imports will decrease. So again, this is the surplus balance of payments, that you are earning more and paying less. Decrease domestic inflation. When internally prices will be low, so domestic people will purchase domestic goods and services, and foreigners will also purchase your goods and services, so exports will increase and imports will decrease. Again, there will be surplus balance of payment. Substitute domestic goods and services on imports. When we replace the domestic commodities on the imported commodities, automatically imports will decrease and balance of payment will be in surplus. Increase GDP, so receipts will be more than payments, and this is the surplus balance of payments when you are paying less and receiving more from the foreigners.